one.
Hi everyone, so I welcome you all to eDC's first interview with the director. So we have with us Professor Rangan Banerjee. Welcome sir. So we'll be starting with the interview. I am Suhani and this is Kush. And without further ado, let's dive into the very first question. And this interview is going to be more centered around entrepreneurship, startups, and what exactly can IIT Delhi do and is doing to promote these student-led startups, alumni-based startups. So diving into the first question.
Yeah. So we all have been on the campus for a while, and you must have interacted with lots of students. So what do you think is the general mindset of the students regarding jobs, startups, or their career in general?
I think that is a question which you are, Kush, you probably be better placed to answer. And you know, students I think are excited about doing something new and startups, but then people are also obsessed with security, and so the risk-taking ability is something which we need to make it, we need to reduce we need to de-risk the startup environment, and that is something because you know you have many options and you get good jobs, and so the question is whether you're going to follow your passion, do you know whether it's going to result in something, and then role models that you have. So often what happens is people do startups, but they start up, take up a job, work for some time, then figure out, no, this is not what we want to do, then start the startup. So sometimes the seed which is planted in the campus germinates later on. And if you see, I mean, I've been looking at some of the numbers, we take pride in our alumni startups, but the alumni startups haven't happened through the campus. They haven't happened from something which happened through the campus. And what we would like to do is to see that those who are interested in doing startups, we can support them so that they take that pathway and they do not actually start with working for someone else, but then start working for themselves. And I think some of the students are doing that, but we have to figure out how to do that in a more effective way. And that's where I think eDC, FIT, the institute can all work together to figure out how we can do that better, because currently, though we do have a good startup ecosystem, we really do not have too many examples of students starting up from the campus and taking that and making successes of it.
Right.
So like if we can provide them with some security for while they're doing startups. So why students prefer to do jobs is they get the security that every month I'm getting this much paycheck in my account. So if the students that are doing startups, if we can provide them with some security that even if this doesn't work out.
So Swani, what we have is we have a possibility of deferred placement. So
yes,
like we have a certain number of years, you can come back and take the placement.
Yes.
So that option is there.
But sir, that is only for 2 years. When you're going for
but we can discuss if you come up with if the students come up with a set of things that can be done. But what we should not and cannot do is we should not essentially provide, it should not be, there is a struggle involved in making a startup, right? So that struggle, people have to, you can't make it a completely comfortable thing where, we are also giving resources and doing that. We can provide facilities, we can provide some of the inputs, and we can also see that if it doesn't work out, you have a fallback option.
Exactly.
And then we can provide possibility of mentorship. But there has to be, the whole idea of a startup is that you believe in something and you're going to take a risk for that, right? So we can sort of think about it, but and we can maybe make some changes in our system to facilitate some of these things. So what I would suggest to eDC is, why don't you talk with students who are doing startups or students who are proposing to do startups and make a list of.
We actually did this. So we had a talk with all of the founders that are on campus. So that included students from 3rd year, 2nd year and 4th year actually. So we talked with them. So one thing that we found very was we told me about Divit Patel, who is in Y Combinator. So he took a deferred year in the sense he took a deferred year. He's a 9-pointer, so he'll be coming back next year for his degree. Right now he's in US pursuing the startup. So he requested if EDC with the college could actually make something so that this procedure is easy for him.
We
It
should
took
be
him
able to
around
do
2 to
that.
3 months to get that deferred year.
Yeah, that should be possible now, because also, you know, in the NEP there is a flexible exit and entry.
Okay.
And so I think that can be done. But these are things where there are specifics. We can have a discussion. We can involve others in the discussion, like the dean academics and others, and then we can see, and if needed, we can take things through the Senate.
I don't have it open right now. We actually have a doc prepared with all of the requirements, so we would love to get back on that.
Yeah.
So one other requirement was students don't get that much mentorship, and also a space to work. So there's Excel that exists, and that is a true blessing for all of the students. That's almost all of the time occupied. But if we compare the campus population and the space that Excel provides, it's nowhere comparable. So sometimes these startups cannot even find a space to work in because there are like at least 4 to 5 people, at least 8 people who are working together. It's not that you can work with your online presence. There's a limitation to that. So space is not something that is very easily provided.
Space is one of our most challenging things today.
Right.
You know, compared to, that's the scarcest resource. Money is not such a scarce resource. Space is a more scarce resource. But I hear what you're saying. We'll have to look at it. Maybe we can, through deans, we'll look at this and see if there can be some common spaces.
Yeah. So like there's research and innovation park. So I've been there. There's an EDC office over there. But there are a lot of vacant rooms. So there, maybe we can allot those to student startups to actually go and work there. Like which startups are allotted which rooms will have to be highly selective first of all, obviously, because there will be students.
See, actually, we have to have many of these things need a process,
Yeah.
and we will need to create that process. But we can definitely provide some spaces for people to work.
Just one more additional thing.
Yeah.
We should, I think, keep the process a bit more flexible in the sense that sometimes facilities exist and processes exist, but students get lost in the process that they're never able to reach the facility.
So I think you're talking of two things. One is you said flexible,
Yeah.
and then you said you can't. Yeah. So I think what you are talking of is a transparency and a pathway where you know that okay, you do this and this can be done.
Exactly.
Right, and flexible means that based on different requests you have different things which somehow sometimes happens, it becomes ad hoc. So X knows Y, and Y gets the space,
Yeah.
Z comes in, they will not get the space. So we need to have a set of rules, but we need to make it
Transparent.
simple and transparent.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Easier
So, but
said
we
than done.
that is the intent, and we will,
Because
so
that is
we
something
will
that-
have a conversation on this, but we will try and work that out.
That can be truly something that adds a lot of value to the student starters
Yes.
on campus.
Yeah. We are also re-looking at our IP policy. I don't know, maybe you have not looked at it. You should, because the IP policy is what dictates. For instance, now suppose you get an idea
Okay.
and you want to do a patent, right?
Okay.
And IP policy tells you that the idea that what is the ownership of IIT, what is the ownership which the students have.
Okay.
And currently our policy says that typically if you file a patent, you have to file it along with a faculty member.
Okay.
So we are re-looking at some of those things, and those are important. See, in general, all of this is not, you have startups, we encourage, this is fine. But there are going to be, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be a few startups which will really hit the jackpot.
Exactly.
And then all of this will be important. Who owns what equity, what is the kind of
Right.
thing. So we'll be sort of re-looking at the IP policy, and it would be nice if EDC also looks at it and gives us some inputs.
Okay.
There are a few things which I have looked at and said that I think certain things could be more student friendly, because it's all everything finally when you're dealing with success and money, there are always disputes. So it's better to have things all in black and white. Right. So and we've seen that. So it's but I think we are in a good place at a good time. There are lots of opportunities. The ecosystem is there. we need to ensure that we use the ecosystem to the maximum for the benefit of the students, where we can do that. And that's the idea. That's the idea which is.
Just a quick addition. So you mentioned patents. So like I was mentioning that interview we had with the founders. So they also said that they don't get a lot of legal help because it's an engineering student. Everyone knows tech. Everyone knows even marketing to some extent. But legal.
That's
help.
easy to fix, one.
But
Because what we can do is we can have a panel of IP attorneys. We can have legal who are associated with FIT and EDC, and who can come half day a week or something to talk to people. So,
so see, the solution exists,
legal,
the problem exists. As a pipeline does not exist for sure.
Yeah, but this is what we have is there are a set of things where we need to identify based on people who have gone through the journey and faced problems. What all are the places where we can get the help? See, faculty members, we do not understand business. Okay, we do not understand the potential, but we have access to professionals who can do that. Right? There's a lot of, so we need to identify those and give that support. Then there are things you have to see in that. What is the value add? You have to see which aspect of society are we impacting? What is the baseline? What's the product we are competing with? We have to be realistic. We have to cut through the hype. And we have to get and see, because finally, if you have substance, your product will do well in the market. And you can, of course, get you can get a short-term hype, you can get some investments and do that, but finally it is we need things which will really, really make, we want a Google, right, and or a Facebook, or something which is tech-based, but something which really makes a great impact. And we have many of those, but none of those are from the campus, unfortunately. That is what is the challenge. That's what we need from the ecosystem, right? All the things which we celebrate are alumni startups. And we celebrate them because we take ownership, saying IIT Delhi has created this. But yes, we've created that ecosystem, but we need to strengthen our ecosystem, because it is our students, and we have the ideas, but we need to see that. So
that
something,
execution also.
We need to be able to do that, and I think we will do that. It goes step by step. It goes step by step, but it is also a requirement. All higher education currently has a lot of challenges, and one of the challenges is about funding. We're a government-funded institute. There are limitations. Government funding cannot increase. And we are scaling up. So we need to have additional sources of funding. We need to be able to see that we get a stream of funding from our ideas and our IP. It's happening, but it's happening, it needs to be scaled. It needs to be scaled. And for that, we need to tweak our ecosystem. So it's a mutually beneficial. It's beneficial for the institute, it's beneficial for the students, and if we do it right, it's beneficial to society. So that is what we have to figure out. So, you're doing events, and I think it's very good to do events, but we also need to keep in mind our overall goal, which is not just creating a short-term splash and creating hype around things. You have to create that, because that's how you get interest. But you need to look at substantively what value we are adding. What value we are adding to the students who want to do the startup. You just said, legal, commercial, looking at the idea and critically looking at the idea and seeing what are the reasons in a conservative way, how will it fail, what are the risks, quantifying that. Then only you'll be able to pitch to a VC. And of course, you can always wow people with your pitch, but finally you have to
the product
has to be what will sell, right? So I think we have to have that balance, and it's easy to get carried away with hype, and it often happens to all of us. But substantively, I'm looking at the long term for the institute, right? And that long term means that we are now at a juncture where we can really make a great impact in our society. And it is through innovation, incubation. Our students are excellent, they are good ideas, and they are willing to think through, they are willing to put in time and passion, we have to enable them. We have to create those mechanisms. How? We don't know completely how, okay? But we need to sit together and figure out and create those mechanisms, and over a period of time, then we can get that. That's the job that we are doing.
So I'd like to mention one opportunity portal that we showed you.
Mm.
So what that does is, how is that value adding to startups? What that does is, right now for startups to hire interns, what they have to do is, they have to put a notice on the IBT notice boards, and that is how they get interns from across the campus. Now that is very cumbersome because people do not check their mails very often.
Right.
You have to send mails every day. What opportunity portal does is, a startup can go on it. They can put that we have a requirement of an intern. This is the stipend we are paying, and this is the role. Now that opportunity portal is available to students also. So if they want to intern in an on-campus startup, off-campus startup, they can simply go on that opportunity portal and look for what internships suits them.
Okay.
So that can actually help them hiring interns, and that can actually help students also connect to startups that are looking for internships. Just one initiative I like to mention.
Like they have basically organized everything in a good way that there are lots of students who misses those things. So everything is collected on one website, and the students can go to the website and they can get anything they want.
Sounds good.
Because like for a startup to go to OCS and then hire students is not exactly a practicality. So that is where we want that opportunity portal to come. Moving on to the second question.
So like there are a lot. What do you think are the booming industries of the future, and how do you think that the startups can pursue these industries?
Like you said, tech startups can be one.
So I think in almost every field you see that there are changes, right? So you look at, let's say, you look at the energy sector, the sector that I know. In the energy sector, actually we can think of a future where every house actually generates its own energy, and all the appliances are controlled. You have renewables which are there. So there are controllers, there are software which will optimize the usage and switch off things and control things. And there are issues in terms of storage. When you look at transport, you look at electric vehicles and intelligent electric vehicles. You look at roads and highways, and you look at how we are, during the pandemic we started off with e-commerce and we're buying things, and now today, I mean, a lot of people don't even go to physical shops because it's all so. I think there are, and yet if you see in our society there are so many places where there is unmet demand, right? And in each of these, if we look at certain things in terms of where there are gaps, and those are the startups which can fill those gaps. There is information, we have so many now, there's a lot of information, there are privacy issues, again there could be, so almost everything, if you look at the reality and you try and see what is happening and you see how tech is impacting it, AI and ML coming in almost every aspect of it, security, so there are opportunities in almost everything, and one needs to look at the domain, one needs to look at the area, one needs to see what value one is adding. You can look at our institute and the way it operates, and you can see in the administration, and you can think in terms of many different things where you can make a difference.
Right.
And again, you can create something, and that something could be applied to many other places. So we need to understand the domain, find the gap, understand basically, this is about immersion and problem identification. And I think that is important. And then you need to identify with the problem, understand where, who is it creating value for. And then of course we need to have a business model. You need to see that translates into some, generating revenue. So I think you all know it better than I do. But it has to finally, you have to see that it has to provide some value to someone, and then they will monetize that value.
So, as you mentioned about the energy part, so you are also not into sustainable development. So do you think that sustainable development will affect the growth of startup or will affect the growth of technology in the upcoming years?
Actually, what happens is, you can look at any product now, and you can look at the entire life cycle of the product, from the materials it is getting to the thing and to the end of use life. And so there are possibilities of quantifying this life cycle. There are possibilities of looking at eco-design, and there are possibilities of startups in each part of this value chain. Right? And there are people who have looked at it. It could be technology, it could be systems, it could be analysis. So this I just give you as an example because this is something I'm familiar with. But in when you make, let's say you make steel, right? And when we are making steel, most of the steel making is basically using fossil fuels. It is possible to make steel with different processes which are green and which are overall sustainable. That needs significant investments. There are ideas. So almost every aspect, whether it is in industry, whether it is in commerce, there are many things in which where things can be done new. And I think technology is not static. And if we start thinking, and technology affects the way we do things, the way we think. So if we need to have an understanding of the domain and who are we creating the product for, what will it impact, what is the value, and then I think that is, and that most people have. I have talked to people, and people have a different. They've come up with. They've seen a problem. They've identified with a person. They've found a solution, and then so people go at it from different ways, and people have different motivations. But we need to create that ecosystem where we can add the value as well as critically assess. We need to have a mechanism. I don't know if you have it in eDC, but when you think in terms of a startup, it has to be assessed both in terms of looking at the baseline, what it is competing against, and what are the value adds. The second is what is the business potential. And both these things can be done, and that has to be done, which is unbiased, and get domain experts to do that.
Exactly. Like critical thinking is not something we can expect college students to have because they do not have a lot of experience in it.
And this need not only be, it is not only faculty, because it has to be people from industry, people from the business, and then you could have that and then see it. Otherwise what happens is it stays more at a prototype level where you have a wow factor. Yeah, this looks good and this is a thing, but
like a lot of startups are not even revenue generating for a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
and revenue generating also, the scaling is the.
So like service-based startups are harder to scale.
Yeah.
So product-based is something that we can scale comparatively easily. So just one unrelated question. You talked about AI ML. So I just want your random thoughts on it. Do you think it will create more jobs or destroy more jobs? Just a question of the sentence that has been going on. Just open the minds, I wanted to ask.
I think that needs a study, but what happens definitely is it changes the nature of jobs.
Exactly.
It definitely changes the nature of jobs, and we must also realize, if you look at the development of society, finally we want to ensure that everyone, we want to enable and improve the quality of life. On social media, you can actually see what is happening. You can put certain things, you Google something and you will immediately get, when your searches you get certain, so there are algorithms which are conditioning the way we respond, right? So I think we need to think through some of these things, because I think the whole purpose of
social media is controlling us.
Of course social media is controlling. Of course it is. It's controlling, and for many people it matters a lot what people think on social media. And then what happens is then you are conditioned to everything sort of goes. So I think we need to anyway, that's sort of, it goes off track. Okay, what else is there?
Okay, so one question based on the resolution.
I think you switched off, no? Are you
still recording?
Yeah, we are recording. We are
वहाँ से
recording.
audio is okay?
हाँ हाँ,
Yeah.
ऑडियो इज ओके, एवरीथिंग इज ओके. प्लीज कंटिन्यू. बैटरी खत्म हो जाती है ना आधे घंटे में, नहीं, और 25 मिनट्स के आसपास. सो वी चेंज दैट. प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
Okay.
प्लीज
So the
कंटिन्यू.
question was on the rigidity of group. So what I mean here is that when students start a startup, there are workshops. So basically, there are very hackathons that are happening. There was this one event where the CEO of Polygon had come in Delhi itself. So a lot of people wanted to go, but they could not go because they had labs. Workshops are happening, hackathons are happening. So people are not able to attend. So the only way to get a buffer day for the lab is if you're sick, if you submit a medical. But can we do something so that students, if it's a valid reason, like a workshop or like a hackathon that is actually valid, we can provide them with some simplicity.
So Shivani, this is a difficult question because you know what happens is rules are there for a purpose.
Yes.
Right? And right, you don't want to incentivize people to lie,
Yeah.
right? But you cannot also make a generic thing because we have on the campus we have a multiplicity of events, and that's the way the campus should be,
Yeah.
right? Everyone should be able to follow their different passions,
Okay.
but people have to balance out.
Yeah.
So the thing which is there is at an institutional level, we are not going to say that no, you don't attend classes, you don't attend labs, you do startups, etc. You have to figure out your priorities.
Yeah.
You need to be able to convince your faculty advisor or your teacher that you are doing this and you make it up, right? Otherwise, it's going to create problems for an
It's
education
going to be a
system. So we cannot do that. But most people,
Yeah.
I think you should have a rapport, you should be able to manage, and otherwise you can schedule things at a time when people don't have labs. You can try and do that. On the other hand, if you see, there will be faculty members who rightly will tell you that we are just not academics is not important, and we are not giving priorities. We are sort of so I think there is a balance in all of this, and each individual will need to figure out how to make that balance. When you create a hackathon or you create something, you need to work around schedules and you need to see. So I would not say, yes, there is a conflict. Time is scarce.
Yeah.
You have to decide where to spend your time.
Everyone gets
And
24 hours.
in our academy, we are very clear. We are here for academics, for teaching, and enabling students to do things. How you manage your time is your business, right? But you need to be there, otherwise you need to take that. You need to get an extra lab, or you need to take the drop in that, or whatever. Right? But that's not going to. You can't.
Exactly. So one thing. So like some faculty members are actually very helpful. You go to them, you explain your situation. That's I'm caught in this particular situation, and I cannot attend the lab. Can I be late? Can I maybe do it another day? And they are helpful. But students have this general fear to the faculty. If I go to them, they won't listen to me. They won't help me.
So
what do you think?
sorry, you tell me what we have to do. We need to create mechanisms where you can interact, talk with faculty. We are talking of, and we've been talking to Professor Narayanan, Guru, Dean Academics. We are thinking in terms of having a mentorship for students with faculty members. I mean, basically a more faculty advising system to enrich that, to see, especially in the initial years. So we have any ideas that students may have, we are happy to discuss. We don't know what is the way to. I mean, we don't know what is the way to see that we can reach out more to students and talk to them, try to enable and to have them discuss, because I think many of the, you talk to your seniors, you talk to your peers, you take a decision based on that, you can also talk to faculty. You do talk to some faculty, but I think we can try and enable more of that. We are all human beings, we've also been students in our lives. And it's not, I mean, we understand, it's okay, everyone goes through things and we are in it together, and we exist because of you. Students are our primary purpose. So we need to have this thing where you sort of put a faculty on a pedestal and you should be able to. So let's figure out together how to do that. Right? This is not just about entrepreneurship, this is a much broader question. Because I think this is key to our institution. IIT Delhi is growing because of the environment, because of the academics, because of the students and the faculty. And if we can, together work, it's going to make a big difference. Because alumni also, if you talk to, they remember specific teachers and what they have done and how they told them to do certain things. It's sort of, with the pandemic and with also all the things in terms of social media and other things, people have switched off a little bit of us. Long term, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, so that is when we went to meet Aditya sir, who's the dean of human affairs. He said that earlier the purpose of EXOL was that to increase the student-professor interaction, and then dinners used to be held, like some evenings where interaction would happen, and that slowed down a lot because of the pandemic happening. So maybe we can get started on those things again, like those interactions, those informal discussions. Because in the classroom, faculty is actually at a pedestal. You see them, someone you're learning from. You're not in an informal discussion. If we actually start with these informal discussions with the students and the professors in the same space.
Actually, Swani, I'm even thinking of it not in that large space. I'm just saying that suppose there are 10 students associated with one faculty member, and faculty member actually, if the student is thinking, shall I do this or shall I look at this, and you just have a sounding board.
Yeah.
And a sounding board who is supportive and it's not about which rule and what are the things, not the functional part of it. It is a sounding board where you can talk and you can
More
get
positive.
Yeah.
So like we have student mentors that are provided.
Yeah, that's
so
exactly what
we
we're
like a faculty mentor.
Student and faculty mentor together to sort of to just that's it.
That can actually definitely be done. So we are like one student mentor on 5 students. So since we do not have that much of faculty,
so we were
can
thinking
put
of one
15,
10 or 15, and then we are
15.
seeing how to identify. So we are working on it.
that can.
So, recap on that. As a student body for entrepreneurship, we do endless efforts for getting engagement for entrepreneurship, for promoting entrepreneurship. So for that, we conducted lots of sessions, workshops, and hackathons. So this time, we are planning the Business and Conclave Festival for entrepreneurship. So this will be a 3-day long event, which will have lots of activities. So do you have any suggestions for us so that we can provide the best quality content and the best quality type of e-summit to our students?
No, I think we already we're getting alumni on board.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good thing, and we should try and we also make it interactive. So, and we should try and see that we have a follow-up subsequent after the event. But I feel the way in which it is planned in the past and it's progressing, I think that's fine. But it shouldn't end with the event. The event should be a starting point to catalyze people, and you can see that because many of our equipment are not always used 24/7. We're trying to see that. So we have to create such mechanisms.
So just one last segment. So we basically put out this post on Instagram. What do you want to ask the director?
Right.
Yeah. So there are a few questions. That
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So the first one was, sir, salary कितनी है आपकी?
You can see it's a standard salary of, we are government servants, so we have this basic DA whatever. So I think it comes to about 3 lakhs or so per month.
Second question was, so there's a course called SBL, that is Introduction to Biology for Engineers. The question is, why is SBL done for electrical people in the electrical branch?
Because I think, of course, this you can take it through the department, but actually, in future, a lot of engineering is going to be bio-inspired, and we may not understand these implications, but you look at the way in which the biological systems work, the way in which we are talking of brain and neurons, and I think understanding that gives it's the next generation of engineering, and we may not see it, but some of the things which you pick up you may use in different places. You're ready to go? Yeah, just maybe 5 minutes.
Just for last 5 minutes.
Do we have a car or?
I think we'll have a car, so we'll have.
Last question.
Just ask them.
Okay, so since it's the last question, I'm picking the one that I find to push.
So tell me all the questions.
Okay, okay. Did you ever step into entrepreneurship?
Well, actually, I did. I almost stepped into entrepreneurship after my PhD. I had worked on oxygen generation and oxygen separation, and this was 1990. And we were looking at pressure swing. We have a material with pressure swing absorption when we could have a rapid, basically instead of oxygen cylinders, we could create this, a simple way to get oxygen from air. And I had gone and met, I was looking at a job, I went and met that time R.G. Aga, who was the Thermax CEO. I sent a letter to him saying, this is my PhD. And so he came and told me, why don't you make this into a product? And never, at that time I didn't go into it, I took up a normal job and did that. I've had many of my students doing entrepreneurship, and I've advised them all informally, but some of them have done well. So yeah, no, I didn't, my risk-taking ability is not so high. But I think you have a different generation, the ecosystem is also much like, I think, you all are brighter and sharper, and I think you should take this up. Even if I didn't do it.
Sir wants to ask all the questions.
Tell me the question. Quickly answer it.
Okay. There's a question that is how to change the education system.
You tell me, seriously, I want you to have, I've been saying this from day one, no one has taken me up on this. I want to have an event where students will tell us what we should do in IIT and how the education system needs to change. All faculty members will come and attend. I've been saying this, no one has taken this up.
I was talking with this he's the overall coordinator. So we were talking, so eDC would actually love to get on starting this event.
I don't know whether it's eDC or whatever, but just do this.
Okay.
What is the other question?
Okay. What are your views on teaching as a career?
I think it's very, I love the career of teaching because you get to interact with young people and you feel alive. And also, students, I mean, it's different. So I think but I also see that very few students want to take this up as a career, which is a shame. And maybe it is to do with the package. But the point is that even if you're in higher education, actually, in most places, the salary that you earn, if you want, you can do much more in terms of consulting and funding, and you can actually earn much more. And many of our faculty members do that. So money is a proxy, for things. So it enables you to do certain things, it gives you certain amount of it. Yeah, you have to figure out. So I think it's a good career, but you need to have the passion, you need to be interested. What else?
Just last two questions. What not to do in first year?
What not to do is follow the herd.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Explore.
But you think about what you want to do. But that doesn't happen in the first year. You just get, I think a lot of things, people just get swayed by all the things, and then you find that you don't know where you're spending your time. So it happens for many people. So you need to you just flow with the tide. Try not to flow with the tide.
Last question. Why is Diwali Day only for one day?
Not my choice. I would have liked to have. See, what happens is we have a fixed number of holidays, and with this staff association, we decide where each holiday is. But I think we all take, anyway, students decide how many holidays to take for the holiday. So I enjoy my holidays. No doubt. you need to, when you're working, you work. When you, but sometimes
You need your holidays.
you need your holiday, but unfortunately we don't. You have things scheduled on holidays also. So, but,
Okay.
Yeah. But I completely empathize with students who think that you need more holidays. But that doesn't mean that I say you have to figure out with your faculty advice.